Welcome, everybody. This is SharePoint Dev Weekly. This is episode 3. We've already done 3 sessions. Oh, my God.
There's like 2 more, and we will be on 5.
Yeah, exactly.
A milestone.
Milestone, yes. Anyway, so today is Thursday, yes, 13th of August. And we're going to actually talk about something which hopefully will happen later today because the video goes out tomorrow. So I'm assuming
it happened. By the time you watch it, it happened or not.
Exactly. But anyway, so we have few news related on SharePoint development from the engineering side. We talk about the GAN blog post and everything. Before we go there actually, Waldek, anything you want to pinpoint what you've been doing on this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So recently I found out that when you want to log stuff in the things that you built in SPFX, so imagine that you would use App Insights to keep track of your logs and usage exceptions, right?
Yep.
Turns out you cannot. You will get exception that App Insights cannot log anything because there is a cross-domain call. Because the bundles of your script, your solutions, live on a different domain than your intranet.
Yep.
So there is some work around that, how you can do that. And there's another thing. So once you get to the stage when you can log things, what you get logged is your minified code. So you get exception in line 1, column 80,569.
We talked about this in episode 2. Yes, we talked
exactly.
About this
So now, over the last few days, I've done some work around it, and I found a way how to deal with that. But it would be cool if that would change over time eventually, right? So that was one thing on which I spent some time. And another thing I've done is that up until now, we offered you the ability to use the Office 365 CLI to upgrade your SPFX project from one version to another. And so far, we looked primarily at things like the JSON, configs, dependencies. But I thought, what if we had a version that would require us to change a reference in code, in TypeScript? Okay. So I'm doing some experiments around that, like how would we detect that, support that, because there are quite a few ways around that, and I'm really close to getting a robust way of doing that. So imagine that the next time you would use CLI to upgrade a project from version X to Y, we will not only alert you to update dependencies, but also will give you, for example, hints like this line of code changes from this to that.
Yeah.
So that would make the upgrade steps really, really easier.
I really think that the upgrading story between the SPFX versions is the killer app for Office 365 CLI. So people actually want to use that. So
we don't really see that ourselves yet, but there's still a chance that
one step at a time. So and SharePoint framework usage is anyway growing. It's just insane. Every single week it just keeps on growing enormously. So if only I could share those stats openly. It's just insane.
Well, you shared the relative growth, which is
relative growth has been
huge.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to share that today again in the SPFX community call. When you're watching this, that happened yesterday. So
you're late. Anyway.
Yes.
So that was me. What about you? I see that you have a guest.
Yes, we do have a guest. We promised to have guests in not in every session, in some of the sessions, but Erwin couldn't actually come physically, so Erwin is here virtually. He's hanging on my table. So that's Erwin van Hunen, the father of PMP PowerShell, because he likes to
other things.
Like that. Yes, among other things. So anyway, we'll get visitors on these sessions definitely in the future. For me, SharePoint Framework 1.6 coming out actually hopefully today. So when you're watching the video, announcement happened yesterday. Woo! And I'm crossing fingers that we don't find anything on the last minute. But I'm going to walk through what's included in 1.6 and the blog post right now. What else? I've been working actually on getting SharePoint on PowerShell to the PowerShell gallery, which is an interesting thing, completely not really dev related, but it is dev related as well.
Well, there are quite a few devs who actually use PowerShell.
I wonder why. It was a scam for Microsoft to teach IT pros development. We were successful.
Yeah. No.
And then obviously modern development, modern transformation, all of that stuff. So there's plenty of stuff happening. Ignite is coming really soon. It's just mind blowing how many emails and everything is flying around. So it is what it is. Anyway, so let's actually jump on the actual screen and have a look on stuff, which we want to go through today. So what we wanted to start, like mentioned, which one is that screen? It is
20 screens.
2 minute screens, and Erwin, obviously. Now you can hopefully see what I'm sharing.
Yes.
Excellent. So this is the blog post, which hopefully went live yesterday. If it didn't, it's going to go live early next week. So I'm crossing fingers that you've seen the announcement on the 1.6. But basically what will be in 1.6 is the obviously general availability of web and graph APIs. So Azure AD-based APIs and graph APIs. And this is obviously huge. So now you can securely call those APIs without additional ADL.js and HTTP tricks and whatever. Sure, we are actually encapsulating ADL.js inside of these classes because that's the only supported ways of doing that for GA, but it is what it is. But it makes your life easier. And just to pinpoint also in the blog point, we are referencing the SharePoint Starter Kit, which has 9 web parts which are using the graph APIs, which we just before this call realized that we need to obviously update that to 1.6 as well.
Well, there are still a few hours left, so
okay.
Now we know what we will
do
in the next few hours, yeah.
Yes, or during the weekend or whatever. The second thing, and obviously there's the admin APIs to manage the permissions, and that should be now working properly for GA. The second big thing, actually, it isn't really that well right now in the blog post. It might be that I need to still ask marketing to do some adjustments on this one. We'll see. But it's the tenant-wide deployment of extensions or tenant-wide activation of extensions. So you're able to basically have footers, headers, and push them, for example, to all of your team sites from one single location. And that's huge. That's finally.
It is.
So you don't have to activate, you don't have to install the solution one by one to a site or activate that by running a code or anything like that. You have one location. Right now in the app catalog, it's a technical location for now, but it works. So you can actually go there and manipulate which of your extensions are available across the whole tenant. And that's absolutely great. So more documentation on that one has been already released, hopefully yesterday as well when you're watching the video. So, well, depending on when you're watching the video, if you watch this video on Monday, then it's going to be the last. Anyway, just gets complicated. It's so complicated. Now, let's actually jump on the, let's say, community pick. So last week on episode 2, we talked about changing the modern page on the root side of the tenant. And this has actually started an interesting discussion also internally. So thank you, Mark, for pushing this forward. So we're now making announcements and statements in our official dev blogs. What are the things which are available or supported related on the modernization of the root side? So first of all, the 2 big things which have been now documented. So first of all, it is not supported to delete and recreate the root side of your site collection.
Do not do that.
Do not do that. It's going to break you eventually. And if you're saying, well, I did it yesterday and it's still working, it might work now, but it's going to bite you eventually. So unfortunately, that option is not at least yet available. We will announce when there are additional things and direction available. The thing what you can do is that you are able to activate the home page, page layout in the root side of your tenant. So which basically means that you can create similar kind of page as communication site, welcome page. So you can achieve almost like a communication site in the root side of your tenant, even though it is a classic theme site because you're using the modernized experience. So from an end user perspective, it's completely seamless. And in the long run, we're looking there's massive amount of thinking, massive amount of discussions and planning going on what do we want to do with the root side, which unfortunately I cannot share. So on Ignite, there will be more details on this one in 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, whatever. But there will be more and more, let's say, information around these options. Now, other stuff. So, I wanted to pinpoint Laura's. Laura has a great blog, which is actually really detailed blog posts around SharePoint Online development, also PowerShell scripts. So, for example, my most used PowerShell scripts for managing SharePoint Online, and also craft stuff. And these are really, really good stuff. They're really detailed, really well written. And Laura has a Twitter tweet, obviously an account as well, so you can easily follow her to stay up to date when there's a new article coming from her. Now, other stuff which has happened kind of since the last episode, slightly depending on how do we evolve this. The view formatting documentation went live. So the documentation went live, I don't think by today, depending again on timings. The official announcement that this is now available as a tech community blog post has gone live. But the documentation is live. You are also able to already see plenty of these two formatting samples, which are available in the SP Dev List formatting repository.
So for folks who do not know what it is, can you say like few words, sentence, like what it is?
Sure. I think the easiest way is to show stuff. So the view formatting basically means, the column formatting means that you're modifying the rendering of a column. So if you go back on the root in here, you're kind of modifying the rendering of the column without a script. So it's styling and certain actions, because this doesn't support scripting, because that would be a script injection, let's say, problem. Now, and if you need scripting, that's why you have SharePoint Framework. Now, the view formatting examples are slightly more, let's say, complicated. Well, I wouldn't say complicated, but you can actually do much more interesting stuff. Advanced stuff. That's probably a good way of putting it. So contact card format, GitHub page looks boring, but if I scroll down, you can actually see that the contact list rendering, the view rendering of the default view rendering of a contact list has been modified to take the information from a contact list, but present that in a different way. And so basically you're overriding the whole list rendering option. And that's huge, because now the classic, even though the modern SharePoint list and document hyperlinks are pretty cool and they're fluent, but every now and then you want to have that exposed for your end users, and voila, there's a
and still this is in theory easier to done than build whole SPFX or build a standalone app, SPFX app, to do exactly that, right? To add as the web part.
And this can be done by anybody who has managed permissions to the list. So it's
and knows JSON
and knows JSON. But anyway, so you don't have to be a developer. Yeah, it's what's the right term? Come on,
power user.
Power user, information
citizen
worker,
developer,
whatever it is, citizen developer, capability. So
don't I want to ask, so if you have a column formatter as well, will this override column formatter, or can you choose whether you want to override it, or will it just ignore it?
This is basically, so the view formatting, what it means is that you basically say for the view, so this is for SP view, or, well, you don't actually say the SP view, you say view object. It has a column formatter property, and you basically say, let me take care of the rendering of this view. And then you define the JSON. So you are ignoring any column formatting.
Okay,
basically
gotcha.
Say, whatever there is, my JSON is taking care of rendering this.
Cool.
That's what it means.
Cool. Sweet.
And more details on this one coming up all the time. But related on this one, so Chris Kent has been super helpful on the documentation and a sample. He has created something. This one was actually pretty. It's like,
this is really cool. Yeah.
I never actually thought about that one. So column formatting is around formatting a column. So you basically have a column value, and then you define how do you format the column value. So in this case, that the progress has been this nice, let's say, a blue thing in there. But then Chris has played around with this one and kind of thought about, well, what if you just want to actually have a button? What if you want to have something which actually isn't a value based? Or you don't actually even have a editing experience for that column. You don't want to expose that column for edit operation. And the beauty of that one is this is actually an ingenious thing. Add a column which is a calculated column. Calculated columns are not visible in the editing experience. So
because you cannot edit them because the value is calculated.
Correct. From other fields. And then you set the column settings to be empty. And at this point, you can then go and modify the column formatting definition for that column to be whatever you want. So you actually have a column in your list which isn't visible in the properties. You can't edit that, but it actually provides an action. So great. It's like, well, of course that makes sense, but I don't think that many people actually thought about this option, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I guess that's also an interesting thing, right? So when you would use this versus when would you use a list view command set that activates on a single item?
True. So,
right? So
fair point.
Yeah.
So column formatting and list view formatting, I know that if people are not really deep dive on what these are and what is the SharePoint framework, list view command set and view field formatter, you might be like, well, these things make those obsolete. And the answer is actually no. So the list view formatting and column formatting does not support running script. So you cannot actually embed script here. You cannot run JavaScript. You cannot do a dialogue and pop-ups and complex scenarios. That is not supported because these are citizen developer capabilities. So anybody can actually modify. As long as you have a modified permission to the list, you can actually modify the rendering of the list. But you can't inject script because that would be a script injection security breach, and we can't allow that. Now, that's why we have SharePoint Framework. SharePoint Framework gives you the capability of attaching script to the lists by using a field formatter or a list view command set or application customizers. And those can actually have any script what they want because they are being governed by the tenant administrator when they're approving those solutions be running in your tenant using the catalog side.
Right. So in the end, depending what you want to achieve, you might need to use one or the other might be an option as well.
Absolutely. One thing to consider in here, so in many cases, and this good topic actually to talk about and sort of spending a lot of time on it. But one thing to consider is also the fact that the column formatting, list formatting can be modified by the end users. So many times maybe IT or let's say HR department wants to have customizations, but they want to make sure that end users can't accidentally break those customizations. That's when you use SharePoint Framework. Because as an end user, you can't get rid of the SharePoint Framework component from a site unless it's explicitly installed to the site, which is one of the options, but it's only just one of the options. Now, column formatting, anybody can modify that. You can go and get rid of the JSON definition and, okay, no, it doesn't look like it. It was looking last night. I don't know what I did. Now it's broken. So,
yeah.
End users, go figure.
No, don't. Next.
Cool. Joel Rodriguez. The blog post itself is relatively short. This is around SharePoint Framework with the Visio JavaScript APIs. But there's a nice example now available in the PMP of SharePoint GitHub repository, which Joel Rodriguez has provided, which is now showing then how to use the Visio JavaScript APIs together with SharePoint Framework application or a web part. So really cool stuff as well if you're looking into making that happen. So now we have a reference example. So thank you, Joel, for that. And that's available in the SP Dev FX web parts. And this is relatively well known because we already have 746 forks, which is pretty decent. 504 stars. That's actually pretty cool. Let's go for 1,000. Let's go.
And actually, you haven't started yourself. So are you trying to tell everybody that you do not like it?
Oh, there we go.
Change.
501. Yes.
So easy.
Fair point. You don't want to know how many emails I get from every single day from GitHub around the status changes.
Could you please like my repo? No.
And this is from Elio. Elio is really actively doing development because he works for Valo Intranet, and those guys are really pushing the development side of the story. But Elio luckily has time to share the learnings as well. And this is really nice story around handling navigation in SharePoint Framework Application Customizer. So how do you actually deal with the navigation transitions and panels and everything else if you have a complex customization? Good to have this one available. Relatively edge case or advanced case if you're really implementing these things. But Elio is definitely an advanced guy. So go figure. Moving on list of things. So this is from Sergey. Really absolutely good finding, to be honest. When I saw this in Twitter,
it's like, how? Why would you ever try that?
Exactly. And it's well, now that I think of it, of course that works because I knew internally what happens in SharePoint, but we never documented this, which is on us. So we as a Microsoft, we should get this documented. But the whole point is that you can actually register an application and a secret to be never expires in Azure AD. But then you can actually use the app in ASPX to actually call that ID and do the XML permission requests in SharePoint. So it's kind of a combination of a classic SharePoint add-in plus Azure AD application registration. And this one is already brilliant because this basically means that your secret does not expire. So typically by default, there's an expiration of 1 year or 2 years, well, depending on how to register the value. Now, this opened up a really interesting discussion with me and Waldek, which didn't come to a conclusion yet. We kind of actually spent a few hours today on investigating something really interesting. So let's see if you can actually figure out what it is in social media before we go public on it.
Yeah. Well, they won't be able because we have a head start of a day.
That's true. They can't get, well, most likely there's much smarter people than we are actually in the social media.
Yeah, like, so, we know that already. We did this since 2011.
Exactly. Yes.
Doesn't matter.
We just didn't blog post them. We didn't.
Yeah, we thought that everybody knew that.
Exactly. Which is
so like you guys didn't know.
Yes. People need to know that not all of the rest of the people know what you know. So writing simple stuff is actually super valuable for anybody because then people can search engines and find stuff available.
And if anything else, you might find yourself in a place where you will need that yourself because you will forget about it. You will search it.
Yes.
Oh, then I wrote about it myself 3 years back.
It's countless of times when I find the stuff from my own blog post. I haven't had a time to blog my personal blog post for 8 years anymore, unfortunately. But in my old blog post related on XML deep dives of feature framework, it's like, what was that one thing? Oh, there it is. So,
like, who's the guy? That's cool. Yeah. What?
Yeah. Oh, that's me. Okay, cool. A few more things to go through. Mikael, actually, this is a good example of a kind of a reminder blog post. So, a really good example. It doesn't have to be a long story on explaining something. This is a reminder on the fact that if you use an Office UI Fabric React in your React components, you don't want to use right now at least the latest of Office UI Fabric React because that's using React 16 and SharePoint Framework is using React 15. So you can't actually use them cross. So you want to use the LTS version of the Office UI Fabric.
Yeah. And I guess important piece, even if you write a short post, the important part is include a nice image.
Yes.
Big image.
Fair point. This blog post is around Office UI Fabric React. So logically, you have a picture of a horse stable.
Because it's coming out. It's like it's styling. It's the whole experience of, going out and seeing the world, like embracing experience. Like making a nice experience.
That's right.
Next.
Sorry, Mikael. So Stefan actually today, I think this came out today, yesterday.
Yesterday.
It depends on timing zones and everything else. So Stefan works pretty late quite often. But this is around using, there's a new release of SPF UI Fabric Themes, which helps you to take advantage of the modern themes within a customization. So really cool stuff, helping you to then basically adapt or make your web parts to adapt on the color theme selected for the site, which is typically what you want to do. Well, yeah, I don't know. That's maybe a wrong way of putting that. It's an option.
No. Well, it is an option, but you still, while you might explicitly...
Exactly. You might explicitly want to use your company brand as an ISV within the background and everything, regardless of a selected thing.
But then, in that stage, I would say that you will have a theme that expresses your company colors, and then inherit them still in everything you build. Because if that will change, you don't want to change everything in code. You want to change
what I'm saying is that, but what if you're an ISV and my ISV color is pink, and I want to make sure that my ISV web parts are pink, regardless of where my ISV web parts are being used?
Yeah, it's like I appreciate your pinkness, but
why would it be pink? Of course, it's orange. So because orange.
Still, I mean, I appreciate your oranges, but if everything else is purple or whatever, it will bite, and you don't have.
Again, debatable. That might be the decision of the ISV. Anyway, as a web part developer, you can choose if you want to use the theme colors or not. That's really the key point.
Correct.
And Stefan's additional package in here is helping you to make that really easier for your developer. Easier for your developer. It's not super complex by default, but this helps you on adapting the right ways of doing that. And by the way, Stefan has really great stuff on the styling stuff on his blog post as well. Stefan is one of those guys. He needs to understand that not all of the people understand all of the things what he understands. So anything what he plugs is actually super valuable. So please remember sharing. So it's not about it's just rocket science thing while I've been waiting. Now I can write. No. Basic stuff. So, now the final thing what we wanted to go through, kind of a referencing also, SharePoint Starter Kit, from Pew Cameron. So this came out, last week, but, to be honest, I didn't notice this, unfortunately, until, this week. But it's a good story. Pew has been writing stuff around the SharePoint Starter Kit. In his blog post, it's called PMP Starter Kit. It was originally called PMP Starter Kit. Now it's actually called SharePoint Starter Kit. Doesn't matter. Same repo, same functionalities, same things. But this is around how the tiles web part has been implemented, how it actually works in the portal, and how you can modify that. And the tiles web part is a really great example of a web part which is available for you, including the source code, from the SharePoint Starter Kit as a reference. And it even uses really, really super cool collection editor. So it opens up a panel where you can then modify the selection and the tiles within the tiles web part using this really cool editor, which is actually reusable control as well. So the SharePoint PMP reusable controls is including this one, and this is going to speed up your development enormously. So great job on Ilya on the control as well. But great blog post from Pew, and Pew has been really helping us on the issue list of SharePoint Starter Kit and all of that one in the SharePoint Starter Kit. And now that I'm mentioning the SharePoint Starter Kit all the time, let me actually jump on his first blog post, which is around the hints and tips. And from here, we can find a link to the GitHub/SharePoint/SP Starter Kit is the location of the SharePoint Starter Kit. It has source code, provisioning automation, everything else. This is really end-to-end reference story on how to build a portal experience using the communication side. It has 15 custom web parts using Graph, using multiple things for you to take advantage in your code. Everything is free. Everything is open source. You can just reuse everything what is available. And by Ignite, we will have super cool announcements on this one as well. So stay tuned. I think that's it. A lot of stuff, a lot of talking, a lot of thinking. Let me actually close the sharing and let's click back on the screens, and let's hope this time the video screening actually works. So
yes, it is. And our guest is still there.
Oh, the guest is here. Yeah, he's been.
Yeah, you forgot about your true guest.
Yes, yeah, somebody's always watching me behind of my back. He's been surprisingly quiet. He isn't that quiet typically, but anyway. We didn't touch scripting or PMP or CSM or provision.
Well, we did mention PowerShell. We did mention PowerShell there. Yeah.
Now, maybe just for credits for Erwin. So Erwin and Paolo are building now a really nice evolution of the PMP provisioning engine, which will be end-to-end tenant level provision. So you're able to basically then have a one PMP file, and which defines multiple site collections, site design, site scripts, taxonomies, everything else. And you basically say for an engine, provision this to my tenant, and it's going to make magical things happen. So that is in progress. There's always some challenges. We'll get it done hopefully by Ignite. And that was the thing which I related on the SharePoint Starter Kit. And there will be other announcements available in Ignite. A lot of talking. A lot of waving hands.
Wait.
Cool. I think we actually went slightly longer today, 25 minutes roughly, but that's probably fine. Good stuff, great stuff. Great to see the community. Keep sharing, keep flocking, share your finding, ping us, use the SharePoint Dev Weekly tag also in Twitter. So we know if you're writing cool stuff, or just ping us on a Twitter. We're trying to get all of those things, copied to our memory list or to my post-it notes. That's high priority tasks are in my post-it notes.
I thought they were red.
That's on this side, which you don't see. So
NDA tasks, which are red. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, actually, I can see them in reflection in the TV.
Red ones?
Was that GitHub? What does it say?
Yellow ones?
Or they are...
Yeah, this is pretty sad.
They are infinite, right? So that's why it's encrypted. It is encrypted.
It's pretty sad. I'm desperately trying to get rid of them, but it's just I just love the fact that now it's done.
Ship it.
Now it's done rather than click on something. Anyway, good discussion. Thank you, Waldek, for this one. We'll be back with the new weekly update on
next week
from this now. Yes, next week is probably. So thank you for watching. Please give us feedback if we're missing something. If you don't agree on something or you agree on something, just start a discussion on social media, on Twitter, Facebook. We're more than happy to engage. Any details you want to have or anything else, just open tech community discussion on asking more details on things. We'll try to help you. But thank you for watching, and we'll come back.
See you next week.
New one. See you next week. Same bad time, bad channel.
Yes.
Cheers.
Bye.